Hi there, welcome to another session of Sofa Talk with the National Hair and Beauty Federation. So my name's Caroline Larissy and I'm Chief Executive of the National Hair and Beauty Federation, and I am so excited today for my guest. So could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Okie doke. So thanks for having me, first of all. It's really nice to be here. So my name is Phil Jarman, and I've been in the men's hairdressing industry now for 39 years. I know, a long time.
No, that's fantastic. And thank you for being here today. So I want to start off. So here's some quick fire questions
Okay.
for you. So are you ready? Ready. I need to put my glasses on because I'm blind as a bat.
And
All right. Favorite country to work in?
India.
Clippers or scissors?
Clippers.
One haircut every barber must master.
Oh my goodness.
That's putting you on the spot.
I think actually scissor cutting is super important. Even although that sounds controversial because I just said clippers. But scissor cutting is everything.
Okay. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Be nice to everyone because you don't know who's sitting in your chair.
Perfect. And one word to describe barbering.
One word. There's about a million answers I want to give here.
Yeah.
I think it is just the world's your oyster. I know that's not one word, but it's everything that you want it to be.
Opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity is the key word.
I'm going to, I think, start off with a little bit of a deep dive, and let's go back into history. So where did you start in the industry?
So basically it was in a little town near Glasgow called Port Glasgow. Never ever thought about being a barber, to be honest, when I left school. But I was always told if you got offered a job, take it because you might not get offered another one because big shipbuilding town, although they were all closing down, etc. So I was in my local barbershop and they said, how's the football going? Because I was going to be a footballer apparently when I was leaving school. That didn't quite happen. So I said, yeah, I'd be your apprentice. And I didn't actually realise what I was letting myself in for in the most positive way. That was a great start, really. The guys who taught me, I didn't actually know how good they were because when you're being taught at that age, you take everything as gospel. You take everything on board and you say, whatever they show me, I'm going to copy it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm a big believer in now. I'll talk about later about education. It's so important to get off to a good start.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I actually left my apprenticeship, moved to London, and I was super surprised by the amount of people who were telling me how incredible I was as a barber. And I was thinking, do we not all cut hair the same?
Yeah.
And then when I obviously got to know there was good habits and bad habits, I was so appreciative for the good start that I got to being a barber.
Fantastic. I mean, that's a big jump, isn't it? From going to like a hometown, and obviously it was meant to be walking in on that day and everything picking up. But what made that decision to go to London?
Well, it wasn't even so much going to London. It was kind of moving away from the town I was in. I always had the people call it manifesting now. I was just a daydreamer.
Yeah.
Still am a daydreamer, or you can call it manifesting. And I always just wanted to basically travel the world with the skills that I had. And it was never in doubt that I was going to do that. But funny enough, it was when I came to London, I went to when L'Oreal was in Kensington. Guy Kremer at that time was men's hairdresser of the year. So I really wanted to keep on learning as much as I can. And I went on one of Guy Kremer's courses, and in the morning he'd done a demo. The afternoon we had some guys from the office that came down, and in my particular model, he had so much hair, so I was razor cutting his hair, a technique that I learned, really old school technique that's so popular now. And Guy stopped the whole class. He's like, everyone stop. And he came over and said, can you explain what you're doing? I said, well, this is razor cutting. It takes the bulk away. It keeps the length. It creates some shape. And afterwards he said, listen, I need you to come down to Winchester.
Yeah.
I want to see more of what you can do. And then Guy gave me some great opportunity to, after he developed, seeing what I can do barbering wise. That he even said he hadn't seen for many years.
Right.
So it's such old school techniques that I learned that set me up for my first event abroad, which was amazing. I was only probably 19 or 20
Oh
at
my
the time.
goodness, yeah. That is just being right in the right place at the right time, and then just bringing something, different and unique to the table, which is fantastic. I know now, barbering has got a little bit of stigma out there, and it's such a shame because I think sometimes we see a lot of negativity in the press, and one of the reasons that why we're doing the Sofa Dog is to really highlight some of the positive stories, but also champion the fantastic careers and the fantastic places it can take you as part of that. So I'm presuming from doing that opened avenues for various different other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being a barber in your town, your local town, I always say if you're the best barber or the best version of whatever you want to be, it can lead to other things. And believe it or not, I actually became an owner of a football club off the back of being a barber, which
Yeah.
was unbelievable. I mean, we went from the non-league to the football league. We played
Yeah.
Manchester United at Old Trafford, which is a dream for any man out there, woman, anyone, to be to be an owner of a
Yeah.
football club. And it was great. But that's all to do with networking, and you develop those skills by being in the industry, by talking to people, by learning how to speak to people as well, and how to listen. I think listening is an important thing. So there's so many opportunities that I've taken with both hands off the back of actually being a men's hairdresser or a barber.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think that's the thing for, young people out there is that you can get those skills. And then I always say every day's a learning day.
Definitely.
Because every time you've got a new client in the business, you've got something new, you're doing a different technique, or, you're having a different type of conversation. And, and education and training is just so important. I know you do a lot on the education and training. Can you tell people a little bit more about that side of things?
Yeah, so I developed the Phil Jarman Academy probably about 10 years ago, and then it really came in more to play with the sort of profession of social media, etc. And that definitely got me out there. And then I became a global educator for Gamma Clippers,
Yeah.
which is amazing. So I get to travel to some incredible places. But I think you can come from two places. Being an educator, you can come from a place of ego, or you can really come from a place of
Yeah.
wanting to help people. And that is one of the biggest joys I get out of what I do, is helping people, making the job a lot more enjoyable
Yeah.
by making it a lot more simple. So it's a lot, I mean, if you really are good at something, you enjoy it a lot more. And the offshoot of that is actually on the monetary side, it's a lot more profitable because you've got client retention.
Yes.
So it's a kind of win-win-win situation. And to help people progress in the industry is definitely something I'm proud of. I've always said it's a great privilege to be an educator, but I actually think the responsibility is even bigger
Yes.
than the privilege. Responsibility of someone's career in your kind of hands, if you like. Obviously, they've got to play their part as well. But, if you can actually really guide someone into becoming a better version in the industry of what they already are, it's just the best. I love it.
Absolutely. And I always think, because I'm from an education and training background, and when I first started doing my teaching, so I did a lot of my training in the salon like everybody does. You with the staff, and then you progress on to, going to local colleges and doing all the stuff like that. And one of the things that I found really hardest was I was one of those hairdressers that I saw somebody do something and I could do it. And I could automatically do it. So my first thing on the teaching was when I got that student that just couldn't get it. No matter how many times you showed them the different ways of doing it, they finally got it in the end.
Yeah.
But it was being able to break it down, and the difference, diverseness in learners, and how some learners will pick it up straight away, and then
Sure.
some of them just need, more support, more training, and then you almost need to see the real technical side of it, and then that little spark
Exactly.
goes, and it's about building that person.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so much joy when you see someone who doesn't necessarily get it, finally get it. When I do my seminars, and, you've normally got 45 minutes to an hour on stage, I love to bring in stories. I love to bring in illustrations that all tie into the key point I'm trying to make. And a lot of people remember that as well. They remember a story, they remember an illustration, or remember a quirky, funny thing
Yeah.
that brings it in. Some people don't necessarily get the technical thing, the angles, etc. But when you kind of bring it all around, it is really good fun. But I do think education, or good education especially, is so transferable.
Absolutely.
You know, so from the guy that I mentioned that taught me, I didn't realize he was a genius. And he probably to this day is one of the best barbers I've ever seen, which says a lot because I've worked with some amazing barbers all over the world. But I always look back to him as my mentor, and I always give thanks and appreciation for what he taught me, because that's put me in a position now that I can pass that on to other people. So, for instance, a couple of years ago, I was in Mumbai in India, and the Mumbai barbers and hairdressers are so enthusiastic. At the end of every show that I'd done, I had a couple of hours break, then we went back on again. They were wanting like selfies and stuff, and it made me feel really awkward because I thought, hang on a minute, I'm a barber.
Yeah.
I don't need a selfie or an autograph or something. I was like, this is really too much. So when I went back on the second time, all of the same crowd were back there watching again, and I said, guys, hands up if you're a barber. So all the hands go up.
Yeah.
And if you asked them to put their hands up at Salon International, no one would put their hand up, but they're so keen, they were like, and I said, listen, I am a barber exactly the same as you. I'm not any greater. I'm not any lesser, probably a bit shorter, to be honest. I'm propped up on the couch here. But the reason I'm actually there and the reason I flew all the way out to India is because I was taught by a genius, and I'm basically passing that on to them. And that's genuinely where I'm coming from. It's not standing there saying, oh, watch me, everyone. Literally, I'm passing the magic on. And if they can copy and paste it, they can take it on board and work hard at it. There's no reason in a couple of years that they couldn't be on that same stage. So I'm a massive fan of good education being transferable. It can be passed on, and then they can pass it on to someone, and it can be passed on again and on again. So yeah, I love the fact that we've got this gift that we can give to someone else, and they can give it to someone else as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's something about, we had a Respect Our Sector, campaign, we've had an event, and it's all about the skills building. And particularly in barbering, you can't just watch a YouTube video and do it, you know what I mean? And we've been a lot involved in developing the apprenticeship standards and making sure we've got that, rigidity of the qualifications that are out there and the pathways that are out there. But it is about, that development. And as I said before, every day is a learning day and honing on those, skills and techniques. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about going into the barbering sector? And I'm thinking because at the moment we've got a lot of barbershops that are, popping up on the high street, and there's a lot of negativity in the press surrounding barbershops. Now, you and I know it's a fantastic industry, and the training is, is really rigorous. The opportunities are absolutely out there. So what would you say to somebody that's wanting to go into the sector or thinking about it?
Yeah, I think getting off to a great start is the most important thing. I only really speak positive, as you know, about the industry, but being realistic as well. There's a lot of barbers who go on training courses, and there is a stat out at the moment that a lot of barbers don't last that long in the industry. The newbies, they might not enjoy it as much as they should. And I've said this before in, different sort of across different social media the reason they don't enjoy it is because they're not really good at it. And the reason they're not really good at it is not necessarily their fault. So it's so important to get off to a good start. It really is. But also, I would say, even though you mentioned there's so many barbershops, I think that gives you a massive opportunity to rise above the ocean of pretty much bang average that sometimes could be out there. Because the more shops they are, the probably average of great stuff is probably lower than it has been. But that gives you the opportunity to rise above it and to make a name for yourself in your town. I think client retention is super important. I think the way you run your business is super important, and I think that's the advice I'd give to a youngster as well. As the benefits of really, the more you learn, the more you can earn as well. I know it sounds a bit corny, but I really truly believe the more you learn, the more you can earn. And I tell people, listen, I'm the 39th year of my apprenticeship. I'm still learning as well, and I always will keep my finger on the pulse.
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
important.
It is, it is. So tell us a little bit more about your education on when did that start about?
So basically, I've kind of been passing it on to people since, as I say, way back when I was 22, 23. I was even, there's some photographs someone sent me the other day from a show that I was involved in, and I'm talking like the early 90s. And I had all of these older barbers. I mean, I looked so young then. I did. I looked like a baby face.
Yeah.
But I had these guys, really older guys, watching me very carefully, and they've probably been cutting hair a lot longer than me, a lot longer. You know, these guys are probably my age now, but they were watching, and I was actually, crazy enough, I was explaining
Yeah.
about my scissor over comb technique and why I was holding the comb static rather than moving it, because that's an old-fashioned technique. A lot of barbers
Yeah.
move the comb, and I show them, listen, if you're building a section, it needs to be the perfect section. That comb's got to be still. It's like if you're picking the top up on a section, you keep moving your fingers around.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of concept. So you really need to keep it, obviously the right tension, but keeping it still as well. So I've kind of been teaching for many years, and the Phil Jarman Academy was basically kind of a natural progression of what I wanted to show people, and how I wanted to make it come across as simple. Because obviously barber education's changed a lot now.
Yeah.
It's changed. There's a lot more sections. It's a lot more like ladies hairdressing on a man's head, which there's nothing wrong with, and the end result is the most important thing. But going from A to B to C to D to E to F, there's a lot of sections involved, and I call them section kings, you know, and not in a sarcastic way, but it does take a lot longer. But some of these really old-fashioned barber techniques, if you do them correctly, it's a lot more time efficient.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say you don't want to be fast, you don't want to be quick, but time efficiency when you're not faffing around
Yeah.
with so many sections.
Yeah.
If I think, yeah, I'm waffling a little bit, but that is one of the things that I love. I've got a real passion about showing people there is actually a more time efficient way to get the perfect result.
Absolutely. And I was fortunate, I think was it last year that I did judging on the Modern Barber Awards, which were and some of the, offerings that you can have, the diversification of barbering now, there was one in a stately hall, there was one with personal shopping experience alongside it, as well as all the various different techniques and skills. So I do really think that, barbering has really upped its game on sort of some of the areas. It was quite, staggering some of the,
Yeah.
the different things that are being offered and the diversification of services.
So true. I used to always not so much put it down, but for many years, and I'm talking back in the early days, for many years, people used to say, "Oh, you're a hairdresser," and I used to say, "No, I'm only a barber, or I'm just a barber." But now you can hold your head up high and say,
Yeah.
I make people look younger for a living.
I think that people these days want an experience, don't they? What I mean? Like years and years ago, you went to barbers and you had a short back and sides, and that was it. But like now, it's a completely thing, and I think that the clients out there want that little bit
For
extra.
sure.
Then-
And that's the good thing, I think, is got to be applauded for. For instance, the Turkish barbers get a lot of bad press, but they brought a lot of pampering to.
Yeah.
They brought it back, from nose and ear waxing to shaving. I mean, one of the countries I visit quite often is Turkey. I go out there, do some demos in Istanbul and further south, and it's a little bit different out there. To be a barber in Turkey, you've got to reach certain levels before you're even allowed to be on the shop floor.
Yeah.
And the standards are incredible. Maybe not so here,
Yeah.
because a lot of people that might not want to do the standards out there might come over here because it's a little bit easier to get into a barbershop. But I applaud the Turkish Hairdressing Federation and the barbering. As I say, I work quite closely with them, showing them some great stuff, and they're so passionate about it. So I think there's a lot that they bring to the table, and I think they've brought the standards up in a lot of ways. Rather than putting them down, I think you've got to applaud what they have brought to the table in the early years.
Absolutely. I remember in a former role, I used to do the standards for the hair and beauty sector. And part of that, we used to work with China and Japan. And what amazed me was that they would work 2, 3 years and not even touch a human head in their training.
It's true.
And that was just absolutely a start. And they would go over and over and over and over on the techniques and stuff, and very rigid on that side of things. And obviously, Turkey is a very similar sort of thing.
It's amazing. I hear in Japan actually that it's after maybe 5 years of training,
Yeah.
it's a pass-fail situation.
Yes.
And if you fail, you've got to go right back to the start again.
Yeah.
Which just shows you the standards are super high. I've been lucky enough to do a lot of Japanese hair over the years, and that's why razor cutting is perfect for their hair.
Yes,
You know, using a tapering scissors, thinning scissors would make it stick up, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the more you learn, the more you earn. If some Japanese guy comes in my shop, I want to do him. Yeah, I'm like, I'm looking after you. And last year, actually, I think it was last year, or the year before, I got to cut the MD's hair of a big Japanese wet company that came over.
Right.
And I collared him the night before one of their launches, and I said, "Can I cut your hair tomorrow?" And I was razor cutting his hair, and I made him look like Elvis in the end, because Japanese hair is so thick and straight. If you don't use the right takers on it, you're going to struggle. Yeah, it's going to stick out everywhere. So literally, and then I used a little bit of his products on it, and literally styled it up. And yeah, no, it's great. It's such a great thing to do.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a lot of international travel. Is there any sort of highlights or anything like that you think?
Well,
Wow.
actually, I kind of one that I've put recently on my social media was the fact that 39 years ago, we looked up to the Italian barbers. The Italian barbers they had the style, they had the techniques, they had everything about them. I just looked at them and thought, these guys are rocking it.
Yeah.
And then last year, I was invited to Teatro Milano, which is the big theatre in Milan. And I was cutting hair on stage there, in front of a sold-out 1,500 crowd.
Yeah.
Which, for all the Italians to really be watching what I'm doing, and kind of, it's like it's a real full circle sort of thing, and that was a proud moment for me. Not that you want to be too proud of what we do to a certain extent. You've got to be very kind of realistic.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. I just couldn't get my head around the thing. If somebody had told me 39 years ago, and I was looking up to all the Italians, to think, do you know what? In a long time, you're going to be showing them on stage
Yeah.
what you've learned, and showing the new generation what it's all about. So that was amazing. But as I say, I mentioned India before, absolutely incredible. And there's so many countries I've been to, and being able to pass on the magic, that it's incredible. Even although you don't get to see, it looks great on Instagram, but the reality is you're flying in,
Yeah.
you're flying out, you're knackered,
Ah.
but the
Yeah.
adrenaline of being on the stage,
Yeah.
you could wing it.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. It's that sort of thing where you go, well, I've been to Barcelona and I've been to Milan and I've been there, but actually I've seen an airport.
Exactly.
I've seen a taxi there. I've done my presentation and then we've gone straight back. And so actually I've been physically, got a
Exactly.
stamp in the passport.
I
but
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I presume your passport's got loads of stamps.
It has. In fact, a funny little story. I was off to Alicante recently, and I turned up at Bournemouth Airport, and my passport's a little bit tatty, because I literally, over the last, I think it's about 8 years old, and it's been all over the place. I mean, I must have done about 40 or 50, even more flights last year. And it is a bit tatty, and they wouldn't let me fly because they said your passport's too tatty.
Oh, gosh.
So, but the next day I flew out of Gatwick
Yeah.
with a different airline. I won't mention the one that didn't let me on. And the rest is history, and I've been flying ever since. So I've got quite a few more trips coming up, but I should really get a new passport,
Yeah.
just in case it happens again.
Gosh, my goodness. Busy, busy, busy. So I know you've mentioned you've got your own business as well. So a lot of our members, obviously they've got their businesses and it's part of that. And people are really, really struggling at the moment, things are tough. You only have to switch on the news and see how tough it is out there and some of the things like that. I mean, how are you? How are you finding things at the moment?
Well, I've got the Sandbanks Barber Company, which is absolutely amazing. Luckily, it's a small peninsula, and I'm the only barber there.
Yeah.
The only hairdressing salon as well. There's nothing else nearby as such. But I always think, people ask me a lot, how do you always build a clientele? Wherever you go, you build a clientele. And I just say, basically, wherever you go, whether you're in the supermarket, whether you're in the pub, wherever you are, be nice to people.
Yeah.
Smile. Because I chat to an old granny standing at the checkout sometimes, and I'm just having a chat, and
Yeah.
and I would always have a card on me. Say, listen, if you've got a husband, or you've got a son or a
Yeah.
grandson, give them that and tell them to come and see me, and I'll look after them. So I think it's always having your radar on that. You are representing your brand wherever you go.
Yes.
So don't get too drunk down the pub. Don't make a fool of yourself. But wherever you go, you are basically your brand.
You are.
So and obviously as well, I'm talking about client retention. It's super important, you know. When I do these seminars, I say to people, "What is your unique selling point?" And they all say customer service, and I say, "Well, it's not unique.
Yeah.
Customer service is standard. If you really want to be a next level up, you really need to concentrate on making someone feel good."
Yes.
You know, I've got, crazily enough, I left school with nothing really, but barbering has taught me so many great skills. I've never actually read a full book in my life. I don't know if it's ADHD or whatever. I don't like diagnosed with that, but I've bought loads of books to go on holiday. I've read the first chapter, I've read the last chapter, and that'll do. Bosh. But now, over the last couple of years, I've actually put together an incredible book that hopefully will be published soon.
Yeah.
The only thing is I've got QR codes on a lot of the pages where you can actually watch the technique.
Yeah.
You can scan it and watch. So that's been the difficult bit. That's a lot. And obviously it's going to be in quite a few different languages as well. So there's a lot more. I kind of didn't bite off more than I can chew because I really wanted the book to come out. But now, with the help of the global companies that I work with, there's definitely a need for it to be translated into different languages. Japanese, for instance,
Absolutely.
Spanish, Portuguese, French. So there's a lot of the languages that the ones that we first think of, but there's quite a few as well. You know, there's some of the Baltic countries have asked for a copy as well. So it's taken a little bit longer than I thought, but I am super proud that I've never really read a book, but I've actually put a book together. But one of the biggest chapters in there is about how you make people feel. You know, and to make someone feel amazing is what's going to bring them back. So kind of going back to what you were saying, what advice would I give for people to build their businesses? Really, really the more you put in, the more you get out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to make someone feel good, though, makes you even feel better. So you can have the busiest day in the salon, as you know, and you're a happy tired.
Yes.
You're knackered,
Yeah.
but you're actually really quite happy.
Yeah.
You've got a buzz.
That's the absolutely fantastic thing about our sector is we support people's mental health well-being. You know, sometimes we're the hub of the high street, aren't we? You know, we get to know things about our clients that, you know, sometimes partners don't even know about that. You're a confidant, you know, you can help, you know, with all sorts of various different things. And that's one of the key things that we do bring to the industry as part of that. And I think that's what the clients value.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's a funny you should say that because there's a chap who doesn't come to me for his haircut because he's got even less hair than me. I met him and his wife recently in a local restaurant in Sandbanks, and he just come up. Both of them said, "Listen, can we buy you a drink?" And I was like, "Don't be daft, I'll get you one," you know. And they said, "Listen, we really appreciate how you've been with our son."
Yeah.
Because the son finished uni, he was really down in the dumps. He didn't pass his exams. He didn't know what he wanted to do. He took a year out traveling. He struggled a lot with mental health. But I didn't even know that.
No.
I've just chatted to him,
Yeah.
as you do, asked him questions, you know, encouraged him to, talk about what he wants to do. And I didn't even know that I was helping.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Wow.
And the mum was nearly in tears. She said, you wouldn't believe how much you've helped him over the last 6 to 8 months, So I feel a bit awkward when he comes in now because I feel as though I've got to help him. Exactly. I was quite good just winging it. But you don't know when someone comes and sits in the chair what they're going through. People come in and, I mean, there's a big world out there and everyone's got, especially the times we're living in, there's so many different things, whether it's financial or, breakups or even pressure of work or pressure.
Yeah.
We don't know what people are going through, but when they sit in your chair, if you make them feel great, you just don't know the good that that's doing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, as I say, it's probably good not to know what's going on in their life because you could just be yourself and encourage them and listen to them as well. Listening is such an important thing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And going back to your book, I mean, it's one of the things that we've just done in the NHBF magazine is actually put QR codes in because the simple fact is different people learn different ways. And there's a lot of neurodiverseness out there. And it's a bit like what I said when I first started teaching. I could see it and I could do it, but different people do different ways. So actually having that in there so you can actually read it, then you can see it and stuff. It's covering all of that, which is absolutely great. And I think that's what supports learners moving forward and the diverseness of learners. But I can't not have you here and talk about your work with Fresher.
Oh, yes. So I'll tell you what, this is a great wee story how this happened. I always say you never know who's sitting in your chair.
Yeah.
Treat everyone like a VIP. So I was working with the biggest barber brand kicking around at the moment, Gold, and they've got their barbershops in Tesco. So basically, my role in the company was head of standards. I'm not working with them now, but I really enjoyed the time I was there. So I used to go to the salons that either have just opened up to
Yeah.
set the standards, or I used to go to salons that weren't particularly doing that well. So I wanted to try and help them be better. Because some of them are doing fantastically well. I think they've got 53, 54 now, or even more.
Yeah.
And some of them aren't doing so well. But this particular salon was in Southampton, and it was just a new salon. So I was there giving them a wee bit of help. So I had a guy in the chair who was an interesting guy. I had a great chat with him. And he was really interested in, my role in the company.
Yeah.
And he was asking me about the goals, and he was asking me a few questions. Didn't realise he was one of the directors of Fresher. Until we got to the till, he said to me, we had this voucher, and I said, I've never seen that before, and he said, oh yeah, I didn't want to tell you. I'm actually one of the main men from Fresher, which actually are a 20% shareholder
Yeah.
in this company, so he's an important person.
Yeah.
And I said to him, why didn't you tell me before? They gave you a much better haircut, right? So he went into Fresher on the Monday. They had a mini board meeting or whatever, and he's contacted the owner, Darren, and said, listen, we need to chat to you about this guy, Phil Jarman. And he's like, oh my God. See, don't laugh. Yeah. He was like, oh, I think he said actually originally I wanted to talk about one of your staff. So Darren was like, oh my goodness. He said, it's Phil Jarman. He said, oh yeah, Phil's one of our. He said, yeah, we want to know if we can have his phone number because we want to have him representing our brand like he does represent you.
Yeah.
He represent himself. So that all goes back to the moral of the story is you don't know who's sitting in your chair.
No.
So just be nice to everyone, whether you're in the salon, out the salon, and just be honest, just be yourself because you are the kind of managing director of your own
Yeah.
company and your own business and your own personality as well. So that's how I got involved with Fresher now. Through great events like HairCon, which I think is a breath of fresh air to the industry and is coming up soon. I introduced them to the HairCon guys last year. Very much at the last minute, they had a kind of booth there, which was really nice. And now they are the proud sponsors, I think, for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's the networking thing I was saying as well. If you get people, I love introducing brands to brands as well, and not for any necessarily financial gain for yourself, but it is good to put people together.
Yeah, and I think, I'm always a great believer in everything happens for a reason. Things, go through and you put out what you receive.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And you can tell by your enthusiasm that, it's built from that, little learner who was an apprentice that moved on, that gone into this and just grabbed at every single opportunity. And that's what I always say to people that are in the industry. What a fantastic industry we're in, that we could actually go from doing this to this to this to this. And there is so many opportunities out there.
Absolutely. I think you've got to have that radar on, as I say. Some people still say to me now, you are so lucky. But I think you've got to put, not in a bad way, but I think some people say you're always getting the best gigs, you're always doing this, you're always doing that. But you have got to have your radar on. And
Absolutely.
as I say, at these events, networking is really important. Salon Internationals, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love an evening out, but I'm still there the next morning on time.
Yeah.
Trying to look dapper and plenty of chewing gum and extra strong men's. But, you've got to literally, as I say, networking is super important. And there's a lot of brands out there that ask me to work with them, but I don't really want to be that guy that opens his jacket and he's got everything for sale.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of pick and choose quite wisely of who you represent. There's a lot of great companies out there that I haven't represented, but it's not because I didn't want to, it's because I've probably represented too many at that time. But if you are interested, give me a shout. I'm all ears. Little plug.
Absolutely no worries. Well, so fascinating to hear all the history and the background and the liaisons and all that sort of thing, and particularly your training and your business yourself. Absolutely fantastic story. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
And for anybody out there, I'd say to you, watch our podcast, look at our website, like, share. This is how we get all the key information out there, but also we shine a light on what's really good in the barbering sector.